Hey, we have a crew. We can't hear you, Josh.
He doesn't want to be heard.
That is fair.
Personal laptop. Is this working now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool.
How's everything going on Anurag? We could reuse. Did you see Anurag contrib? Did you approve? Yes. Also, oh, yes. Thank you. And thank you for confirming. Oh no, I'm not sharing them. That's makes it hard to follow what I'm mumbling about. Thank you, John, for agreeing. It is convenient to have Pacific time zone approvers.
Were there no Pacific time zone approvers?
I think you yourself are the Pacific time zone approver.
Yeah.
Trask.
Yes.
So you need one other.
I need one other. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what John's approval status. I'm not letting him relinquish approval status in the instrumentation repo because I often need a rubber stamp. Can you approve this one line change so that the build will get back to working?
You could always just send me a diff and I could put in the PR and then you could approve it and merge it.
Yeah, I didn't even notice our Java's non-US focused team. That's cool. Now I just need to get an Atlassian team to join as a maintainer or something, and then we'll be the dominant factor. That'll be awesome.
Well, Jack is not on the West Coast. He's in, I want to say, Chicago. I think Jack's in Chicago.
Yeah, I feel like he's only one time zone off me.
So it's tough for Jack to join these meetings. It'd be cool if he could.
I mean, it's 8 p.m. his time.
Yeah. If it helps, we can move the meeting back an hour starting next week. Or so next week? Week after. Sorry, week after.
Oh,
second week of November, daylight savings will end, so it'll be 11 a.m. for me. So
when do our daylight savings cross over terribly? Don't we go 2 hours off each other at some point?
Japan doesn't have daylight savings. There's no crosstalk. It's just US. Yeah. Unless US has multiple daylight savings times within a state nowadays. I wouldn't put it past them.
There are a couple places that's true. Like Indiana, I think, has a weird thing in Gary like that.
If you ever look at the daylight savings map, it looks kind of like someone gerrymandered it.
Yeah, it's busy. And then for some reason, Arizona just doesn't do daylight savings because they're smart. I mean, they're not smart because they live in the desert where it's 120 degrees, and there's no water. But at least they're smart in one direction.
I feel like they have more daylight down there too.
Well, that is true.
Like just here, I appreciate daylight savings to some extent because I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. to see the sun in the winter,
Whatevs.
Okay.
I'm hardcore daylight savings all the time.
Well, yeah, that's fine too, as long as we don't have to change anything.
I'd say the big difference not having it is that mornings can be really hot. Like you wake up hot in the summer, at least in Japan, because the sun has already been out for a while. So compared to the US, I didn't notice that.
I just think you need to shift your sleep schedule to when the sun rises.
I mean, yeah,
well,
so that's a reasonable
solution. A lot of sense, but it never works for me.
So this is why I just want to get rid of time zones altogether, and we can all just live on Zulu time and wake up when it's the right time to wake up.
So I heard this the like everyone should just use Zulu time. Or no, sorry, I heard everyone should just use GMT time, mostly from people who lived in the GMT time zone.
No,
Yeah,
I'm happy to
sure I
use it.
agree. I'm not sure I agree with that, John.
I can adjust. It's all good. Or you could use that swatch metric time thing they introduced in the early, like late 90s, early 2000s. I especially like that. Well, so it was 1,000 ticks a day is what it was. And centered in Grenoble or someplace in Switzerland, obviously. But I always liked it because I got to work at Oracle at 666 was my time, arrival time generally.
So you had a clock that had that timed?
I had a little widget on my Windows desktop, I believe. When there were like those live widgets for early versions of, or I don't know, 2000 version, the year 2000 version of Windows.
Does Java date time have a conversion to, what did you call it? Swatch time?
Yeah, yeah, swatch time. You can say I keep looking for a little web browser widget. Swatch internet time. There it is.
Things I learned.
Yeah, they're called, each is 1,000 beats. Oh, you could buy a watch. That's sweet.
A Swatch watch
A
even.
swatch.
Well, of course it was from Swatch.
It's a swatch, right? Not a swatch watch.
It's just a Swatch.
All right, Android. Lots more Android discussion, and surprisingly, I saw your comment, Anurag, that made sense from SPIing it.
Mhm.
I like that.
You can always rely on me to not be Java agent first.
Java, yeah, I know. I'm sure you saw that. The Java agent will get the good one. You're like, no. Yeah, but it feels like we don't have a really. I think we do need this artifact to be just really Android, pure
Compatible.
cool Android friendly.
Yeah.
Do you
When in
remember
doubt, when in doubt, SPI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the virtual field thing also, presumably that could be an SPI if we needed to be. Though I don't know if class value performs that much better than a weak map to justify it. We want to check that.
Well, and the Java agent already, the whole point of this is so that the
Yeah.
Java can SPI
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but we could put that in the for library instrumentations, we could have a optimized artifact that you pull in. John says that from his perspective, we're good waiting to 1.8, which would be my preference to hopefully just get it solved right. And we'll see if nobody's opened an issue or reported it otherwise.
Yeah. So what's the point about Harmony? Can you copy paste from Harmony? What's this?
Oh yeah, so Lori was mentioning that the weak hash map, that we need actually a weak identity hash map, but now I'm thinking about it, his argument, he was talking about this being from a Java agent perspective, that this is like a best practice for Java agents when you're putting the key random user classes as your keys, because you don't want to rely on the user's equals and hash code. But in this case, I don't think it applies, since we'll SPI it and we'll use caffeine for the Java agent. So it does seem like we could probably get away with just a normal weak hash map in the instrumenter API for library instrumentation.
Hmm. So we said we don't have the case of bounded plus weak anyways, right? Did we
Oh,
find one?
I-
Or-
No, I think I crossed wires here.
Mhm, okay. Yeah.
I thought this was what he was going down, this
Mm-hmm.
path of bounded plus weak. But he said even in just the weak case, weak alone, that the weak identity hash map is important from the agent perspective to not rely on equals and hash code.
Yeah.
But I think this is
we have our sort of unspoken. Maybe we haven't made it clear enough, but we're not supposed to use our weak cache thing when we don't know the equal. Like, do we ever put arbitrary user objects? We shouldn't be, I think.
well, so we do put, like, say the virtual field doesn't work, and we fall back to weak hash map for like propagating context in runnables.
Okay.
Right, the runnable could be a lot of different things.
Yeah. But in the current, the weak lock free, but that uses identity, right?
I think so.
Yeah. No, we're good, I think.
Hey, we were
Hey,
just
it's
talking
Jack.
about you, Jack.
Ah, Jack.
Yeah, I invited him over. So.
Sweet.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. We wanted, knowing that you're a bit later, we wanted to check in. It would be great to have you in these meetings. But I know the time is not great. Anurag mentioned with daylight savings coming, though potentially we could move it an hour earlier also.
No, I this time is fine for me. It's once a week and it's outside of business hours, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, I'll try to make these going forward.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Anurag, it's nice to
Yeah.
meet you.
Oh,
Good to see you.
yeah.
I feel like
is this
we've
the first time you-
spoken a lot over PRs, but
Yep.
I have a face to put together
Yep.
with the name now.
Yep. Always makes things easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried to, we have varying staggering meetings. We also have one on Tuesday, which is our Monday night, which is to overlap between Anurag and Japan, Estonia, Poland, Pacific. So
Late
that
night.
would be like midnight. That would be like midnight or 1 a.m. for you all on the Central and East Coast. It's cool though. James has been joining that call. Yeah.
From Atlassian.
It's really good to see him involved. That's awesome.
Yep.
Because they were angry with us before, right? Atlassian. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Were they?
But they were. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
I
I guess this is recorded, so I don't remember how much was actually public. But yeah, there was a little hey, related. We're gonna talk about the roadmap later, and that's
Yeah,
very important for everybody.
I was gonna assume that it was because we're like way late compared to what the initial timelines were, and I can see that. And they clearly went all in on OpenTelemetry, very early adopter. So yeah, not surprising. Oh yeah, you want to talk about this, Josh?
Oh yeah, cool. So we're gonna try to start a new semantic convention committee focused on garbage collection semantic conventions for metrics. So you know how there's the instrumentation groups doing like HTTP and messaging. So this was actually Ben doing the JFR stuff, came up with the idea, pulled in Aaron Schnabel, and then we were talking about it and got a list of like who from Java, like GC, we should try to pull in, and they have big names and fun people to pull in. So we're going to try to get a group together that is hopefully not just open telemetry maintainers. And we're going to try to get other metric groups. So specifically pull in from Micrometer. And then get we also want to get someone from Prometheus too, but get a set of metric naming and attribute conventions in OTel that we think are going to be kind of standard across monitoring in general. And then make sure that OTel supports it, first class and that sort of thing. So lots of cool discussions in the 30 minutes we spent deciding that it's worth having giant discussions now. So yeah, I'm gonna get a calendar proposal PR set up. The hard problem here is going to be when should we have it? Yeah, I'm probably the worst offender there because I'm East Coast, and I think all the important people are not. But I could be wrong there. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, Ben's in Spain, right? So
And then Tommy from Micrometer is in Japan, so hoping that influences going into Japan direction.
Yeah, I think we're going to focus on really good documentation and bug communication, and see if we can make up for not having as many live meetings. But there'll be a live meeting too to kind of get things kicked off and meet each other.
And recordings.
is it gonna cover more than the JVM? Is it just in general garbage collection metrics across many VMs?
I want to keep it scoped to the JVM, if we can. That's a great question. I have having discussion. So one of the guys on my team used to work on the GC for Go, and knowing how that thing works, I don't want to. I don't want to do Go and Java and other garbage collected languages because the differential is really super high. I think we're going to have a big risk already trying to define a GC kind of thing. If we define Java semantic conventions and then we look at Go and define a higher level set of semantic conventions at some point, maybe. I don't think there's enough understanding yet there. By the way, have you done Go GC kind of tuning evaluations? See, one of the things with monitoring a garbage collector is you need to be able to tune it. Like observability without action is kind of hard. And from what I understand in Go, there's like two common things people do is they make a ballast, which the collector has, and they try to avoid allocations to begin with, right? But otherwise, they just assume it's doing a good job. That's what I've seen. I don't know if that's fully accurate in terms of how people monitor Go applications overall, but I think it's like, anyway, I'm ranting about Go. Then go apply that to like Python, go apply that to, JavaScript, other GC, .NET. I think it's going to be, I would like to limit the scope because we already have a lot of people that will have opinions in a room just with Java. So let's nail it, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to try to mediate a garbage collection discussion across multiple languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, in a month, I think I had a random email sent. I guess there's an AWS team working on generational Shenandoah, a new GC targeted for a future JVM, I think. And the question was specifically like, should we be using OpenTelemetry to collect metrics for this GC? And I was like, probably you should be using MX Beans like you've been using since the beginning of time. But obviously they do have OpenTelemetry on their mind. So
and JFR. I mean, if they're emitting JFR,
Yeah.
then
yeah.
We actually are trying to get at least one person who's actively working on Shenandoah into this committee because we think that's going to be really important going forward. That people writing the new garbage collectors understand observability as a use case and provide hooks that we need.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where that hook is, just please provide good ones.
Yeah.
It would be super awesome if you could get Marcus Hurt involved also. Prying somebody from Datadog into OpenTelemetry would be very nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a name that Ben brought up as well. So we should try to do that too. Yeah.
Well, you've got at least Ben involved, and he knows A, all the people, and B, also knows the garbage collectors super well. So
Yeah, Ben and Aaron are doing all the legwork of getting the people. I'm just I can make hotel things for you, and
Is
then
that-
Have the
just
power
bask
to
in.
make meetings.
I can
Is
make
that
meetings and then
Ben
pretend.
Evans or which Ben?
What?
yeah,
Ben
Ben
Yeah,
Evans.
Ben Evans. Yeah.
Would it help if like if you have some link to share, I can share with those Shenandoah people that contacted me. That's helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I would link them with Ben Evans, and then
Okay.
I'm planning to send the PR with all the coordination stuff in my morning tomorrow. So I'll put a link. I'm going to put a link in. I guess I'll put it in the public Java channel and the public Java instrumentation channel, and maybe the instrumentation channel in general too. And then everyone can comment on there of like time zones they want, or sorry, times they want to have the meeting. Not that I can ever read those PRs because I don't translate PDT to my time zone ever in my head. I have trouble. It's only subtracting 3, but man, it hurts. You know?
Subtracting 3?
Oh right, it's adding 3. Never mind. It's adding 3.
That's your problem.
See, this is the problem. Yeah. Unless the computer does it for me, I can't do arithmetic.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
I'm always. What time is it?
Yeah. +8 is quite in my brain now. But then I had a problem. So when I was trying to set up a meeting with someone on the East Coast, then I accidentally did +12. He was like, "Oh, that's not 11 p.m. It's 10 p.m."
Hmm.
Anything? Is
East
there
Coast hard.
anything? Is there anything that's 3 hours, like subtracting 3 hours from Pacific time? Hawaii is 2 off, I think. Like maybe something in the Aleutian Islands or something.
Where is Guam? Is Guam on the other side of that one?
Guam's
It's
in
pretty
some-
close to Japan,
Yeah.
or time zone wise. I don't think it's more than 2 hours from Japan. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. So
Cool.
you're going to, in the PR you open, you're going to propose or ask for comments on times.
Yeah, that seems to be the convention everyone else does. I've never done this before, so I'm just going to do exactly what Tigran did for the last instrumentation meeting.
Cool.
I will propose like a time though. Do we have a time that we like? Because it'd be nice to have at least one of the maintainers there. But again, this is not necessarily a meeting for the maintainers. We're trying to get a different set of people who are more like the instrumentation authors to make sure they can come. But it'd be good to have at least one representative there, depending on the time zone.
It's gonna be tough to do Spain, US, and Japan.
Mhm.
So
Whatever
Unless
with others.
is going to be up in the middle of the night.
I might propose an every other thing then, so that we can have a working group with maybe someone who can attend both, pass off the way we do for the metrics SDK, where the one, what is it, the 4 p.m. Pacific one I can never attend. That's always terrible for me. But the noon one I can, and then we just kind of pass off communities, you know. So we can do an every other week thing.
yeah, if Ben is sort of leading that, then there would probably be Europe, Japan, Europe, US.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I love the idea of getting people outside of open telemetry, like the general Java community, because it gives visibility also just to open telemetry and gets people thinking about that. And this was, Josh had findings which matched this issue.
Yeah.
which I misdiagnosed. But thanks to Josh, got it all figured out.
They're not part of it.
They are part of the spec, but they probably shouldn't be.
Well, yeah.
No,
Well,
it's not misdiagnosed. It's correctly diagnosed.
no. The net.peer, yeah, so we have to change some of the things in the spec, but net.peer.ip and net.peer.port, I don't think we're part of the spec for server side metrics. We're using the same filter for server and client.
Oh,
And that's one of the problems there, because net.peer.port on the server and net.peer.ip on the server are not stable labels. So if you look at the attributes, see how it says client and server, they're like different between one or the other.
Oh,
And
I missed
our
this
filters aren't.
column.
Yeah. So like that's actually the issue there. But I'm not 100% positive we should be using net.peer.port and IP on the client. We can leave it there because it's there, but all I'm going to do is make a new filter, one for client, one for server, and then go update the instrumentation. I think that's what
Couldn't that be problematic if like you're running in Kubernetes or something and one of your peers is Flappy? You could end up generating
it
stuff.
depends how you do your service linking.
Okay.
Like if you're hitting a load balancer, it's not a big deal, but if you're hitting like a different endpoint each time, then you actually, that can cause problems. So if you have a name that you can use for that service instead of an IP, like again, not resolving the DNS name is useful here. I don't know.
What's the peer IP
Yeah.
going to be if you're connecting to a service on the public internet?
It's going to be that public IP address.
Mhm.
Isn't
mean,
that subject
like,
to change pretty frequently? Or
Yeah,
no?
I don't think we should have that in
Yeah.
the metric spec at all. I think we need to go reevaluate that. I need to do some root cause and find out if that was in the original Open Census spec as well. If it was or if it was added because people just took everything from tracing and said, let's keep it all and make it work. And if it was that second thing, then I think it's probably fine to remove.
I've used PIP on metrics before, and it was actually very helpful because we're using DNS load balancing. So it's just one DNS, but to know which pod I was actually talking to. The IP was the only way, and I can't think of a easy to solve way to solve that. It wasn't a problem because I guess maybe it's a feature. Like I think Micrometer was garbage collecting the labels. Like it would only have metrics for recent endpoints. Once the endpoints changed, like the old endpoints weren't there anymore in the outputted metrics. So once we have, I think we're also going to have some garbage collection at some point, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
could help. I would probably
Yeah.
expect IP to be there in general
From the client.
for client, but not server. Of course, not
Definitely
server.
not server. Yeah, as
For
long
client.
as we do not do that,
Yeah.
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now I have a server running that just has a cron job in Kate's that wakes up and hits it, and it's only one client and only one server, and I'm up to about 2,000 metric streams, because of recycled IP addresses and different ports, right? So that's been fun. Ironically, the memory usage isn't terrible yet, but it keeps going up.
So we will have some garbage collection for that sort of case also, right?
Yeah, we also talked about high cardinality, and I think there's a few actionable items to do here. What I want to do is finish the public-facing API and some error handling things around view configuration. But if someone has time to pick up some of the fixes, like John had a bunch of good ideas in the original high cardinality PR. I think the bare minimum we should do is in the, what the hell is that thing called? Either the delta metric storage or in the temporal metric storage, you can have something that just checks the size of the map. And when it's over a particular size, we call some kind of, hey, we're in a high cardinality situation, do something useful. And it can go through and garbage collect really stale points that haven't been updated in a long time if we keep track of that, which we'd have to actually add. a little bit of for cumulative metrics. Or the second thing is you could actually go and update the label filters for the actual storage so that you get rid of whatever label has the highest cardinality, because you can actually go look at your label sets. That's a bit more expensive. But I think the TLDR is we just need something that every time collection's called, we check the cardinality of the metric at that point in time and decide if it's too high, and then do some kind of cleanup, garbage collection, memory limit thing. That'd be my suggestion. I think that's pretty simple to do and would have a big benefit.
I like the pruning the series based on which labels have the highest cardinality. But one thing I'm thinking about is like, how do you avoid getting in like a cycle where, you prune those off and then the attributes keep accumulating, or like metrics keep accumulating those high cardinality labels, and that triggers it again.
I'm suggesting we prune in the collection cycle, and then we actually update the label processor, or sorry, we call it the attribute processor, to have, so those you can chain right now. So we just add one at the bottom that actually removes the attribute for all time, for the rest of that lifecycle SDK. Yeah. That has a lot of implications, because now we have something that used to be immutable that is immutable and highly concurrent.
Client IP though, still, we wouldn't want that to be just filtered out forever, right? There would be some time window, for example. Like if it's high cardinality within the last minute, then it's too high cardinality if it's within the last day or something. Like
that's actually what Jack was suggesting, though, was like, we don't want to be churning back and forth with this.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm suggesting that we find a way to kind of limit it going forward. For at least for cumulatives, absolutely. Maybe we don't have to be as aggressive for deltas.
Because deltas, if it hasn't been used, if that dimension hasn't been used, it'll be removed from the map altogether, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, I think this applies to cumulatives more than anything else.
If the metric hasn't been updated for like a day, we should probably just delete the metric even for cumulative, right?
Sure. I mean, I think we can be more aggressive than just a day. But
yeah, or something. Yeah.
There's also, we do have the ability to like know when we're trying to allocate a new cardinality, a new data stream that doesn't fit in the attribute concurrent map for our delta accumulators. So we can actually detect if we're going over a limit. It's a little bit tricky to do in that concurrent setting, but we could, instead of having a watchdog, like an after the fact detect this and go clean it up, we could do it ahead of time and do like an enforcer thing. I think that's going to take a bit of a hit in terms of performance. Like the after the fact cleanup is a little bit more performant. We kind of allow ourselves to grow a little bit for one collection cycle and then shrink back down. I am suggesting, though, that I really do think we need to permanently limit that, not permanently, but for a very long time, limit that cardinality problem. Especially with the kind of cardinality issues that I've seen and what we would expect. If you're having a high cardinality problem, it's actually your instrumentation is the issue, right? That's not going to get fixed. It's not necessarily like the data shape. It's actually the instrumentation itself. So I think it's better for us to say, we have this thing that limits the cardinality. It's in operation. Here's how it works. We're going to log to you and send you an error when it happens in some fashion, so you can go clean up your instrumentation. But this is literally just so you get metrics. And you should consider it a bug in your instrumentation that you need to go fix.
How does that apply to the net peer IP? If the, what was I thinking that, I'm trying to think from this idea of from the agent, from the auto instrumentation, what our default, I liked the idea of being conservative by default. But if we had some kind of protection like that, I guess that's the point, is then that we could be more confident to collect net pure IP for clients?
You could, yeah. So I guess what I'm suggesting is if you did collect net peer IP and we detect that your dimensionality goes crazy, we would automatically start suppressing it and log a warning that this attribute's causing problems, or some kind of event or some sort of error that users could catch and then go fix it. I still don't think we should be using net peer IP for the client, or sorry, not for the server. Man, it's confusing to talk about the client of the server. But yeah, when the server reports metrics, it should not be reporting the client IP address or its port. That I still think we shouldn't be doing like ever. But
That was just me not missing this column here.
oh, that's
when I
fine. That's fine.
wrote that.
The-
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm hoping over time we can lean into exemplars for some of this stuff. Like when you see a server latency metric and you're like, hey, my 99th percentile is bad. I have an exemplar that's like in this range. Let me go take a look at it. And that lets you know which servers were causing problems. But that's not as general as letting people kind of get more access to metrics. So I think we need to do both in practice. But I do want to lean into exemplars more now that they're more mainstream. I wouldn't say they're mainstream, but they're more mainstream than they were before.
Yeah, I'm still looking forward to the exemplar demo
To your demo.
whenever it happens.
I was going to give you a good demo today, and then I actually can't query my backend because I blew up my cardinality on this metric. So it actually crashes on this metric. Anyway,
So Josh,
unfortunately.
Josh, I was just, while you all were talking about important stuff, I was looking through the code. So the aggregator handle at the moment, which there's one of those per label or per attribute, unique attribute set, has recordings Boolean on it.
Yes.
Feels like we could just take that and make it a little more sophisticated and not just has recordings, which just gets reset every cycle, but we could keep track of we haven't seen any recordings in 10 cycles on this set, and then we could just kick it out if it's in that state. Something along those lines.
Yeah. We should probably also do this for async metrics, which is why I was thinking of doing it in the temporal storage, because that hits both of them.
Right.
But you're right. Like that's another place we can put this. I was thinking the concurrent map of aggregator handle, when we go to allocate one of those, that's an option because we can check the size.
Right. And we could then evict. We could then take that map and evict the ones that haven't had any recordings in some number of collection cycles.
Yeah, and it does every single collection cycle. It tries to evict anything that doesn't have a recording.
That's only for deltas, though.
For deltas, cumulatives is in temporal storage, so we also have to do the same thing in temporal storage, which we don't have.
So the deltas probably are the problem then, because they're probably already being evicted.
Yeah. The issue is more that I still think we're getting pretty high cardinality right in the delta thing too, but the temporal storage is probably the main thing we need to tackle here.
To protect the applications, to protect the backends, we have to address cardinality as a
Even
whole.
for deltas, right?
Yeah, unless you get everyone to use what's it called? The really cool one that stores giant JSON structures. Sorry, there's like one metric backend that handles cardinality, and I like it, and I always forget its name.
Was it one of the 6 you told us about?
It's one of the
2 weeks
6
ago?
I told you about last time. Yeah.
It's the one that I use for my personal project that I can never.
Yes.
Influx DB.
Influx,
Influx.
yes. Because I always get it confused with the card game Flux. That's right. And
That has
I've
2
had-
X's.
I've had great luck with Influx. I'm glad to hear other people like it.
Yeah, Influx is cool.
Yeah.
I haven't used it. Like when I first heard about it, the world was starting to use Prometheus for everything.
Are
Yeah,
we
I-
all
like a-
vendors with backends that like Influx? Is that a thing, Anurag? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, what?
Okay, you're into Prometheus. My bad. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
actually,
I've
I would be very surprised if InfluxDB, the company, doesn't get acquired by some observability vendor in the next year and a half or so. I don't know who it'll be, but that would be, it seems like they're right for the
it'd be
picking.
Splunk, right? Because Splunk wants to have the high robustness, infinite cardinality metrics like that. Same
I
as
think that
Stamps.
would be super rad. I'd be all in
Yeah.
favor.
Yeah.
Everyone in this meeting's checking their bank account for the company. Like, let's see. What
Well, yeah,
can we
that-
do?
well, you know, I pay them the 28 cents a month or whatever, so clearly they have revenue.
It's like a
thought it
rent to own thing, right? Like that 28 cents a month eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
And anyway, yeah. So high cardinality metrics. If anyone wants to take a crack at it, there's no way I'm going to get to it probably in the next 2 weeks. What I'm working on right now is removing all of those freaking ugly nulls that I didn't want to begin with, and aggregation temporality. We got rid of it from the Vue API, so I'm gutting it out. That's step one. Step two is I'm working on a better error message when you have Vue instrument name conflicts, where it should actually write out the line of code that registered the instrument for the Vue. I'm not happy with I have to add mutability in weird places. So I'm curious if we're willing to keep areas of our code mutable only for debug messages, or if I should hide this all behind some sort of flag or some sort of like debuggable SDK thing.
Is this sort of getting the stack trace when someone creates an instrument?
Yeah, I was going to grab the stack trace when they create an instrument and just
Mhm.
remember the line that created the instrument.
Yeah.
If I can, and if I can't, we stop trying to do that ever again.
Yeah, it sounds like, is there a mutable aspect? Won't you just, I mean, there
I
might be a
have
map
to-
of these. Yeah.
I have to mutate the metric storage object to
Mhm.
record every place that registered an instrument, so that you
Yeah.
know, like, here's the 5 that registered, this
Mhm.
version of the instrument, and here's the one that registered the different one.
Yep.
That caused the conflict. Yeah.
Seems quite normal. Like I wouldn't do anything weird. Just have that map.
Yeah, I
It
think
can be mutable, right? Yeah.
the things we're trying to keep immutable is configuration, not like
Yeah.
internal data.
And like user structures that the user interacts with, but this sounds like an
Yeah.
implementation detail.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, cool. That simplifies the crazy stuff I was attempting then. I'll try to keep it short, but because
And
my
we
PRs
don't-
have been too big.
Support registering the same instrument multiple times, right? Or do we support that?
We do.
In that case,
I-
maybe a debug flag is good so that we don't have to do, like, if that might be on the hot path then if we support it, right? So we might want the debug flag so it's not run every time because the stack trace is so slow.
Okay, do we have an existing debug flag?
We have one for context propagation, but it's namespace to context propagation. I think we use a specific name for this rather than general one.
Well, that's
Oh.
what I mean. I can just follow the same convention.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Why would registering be on the hot path?
We can't control when it happens. It can happen anywhere. It shouldn't be on the hot path because we recommend against it, but users
if
can do
you-
whatever the hell they want.
If you migrate your micrometer code to OpenTelemetry, it'll probably be on the hot path.
I see. Okay, so it's not the recommended is to register bind and then use.
Here's the worst offender, by the way, and I need to figure out how to fix this because it's this is possibly going to be spec'd. Asynchronous instruments should allow you to register synchronous instruments inside of them and immediately write values.
It should.
That is the worst. That is done because we don't have batch recording. So that was the decided workaround, or that's what Go does. It hasn't made it into the spec, and I'm basically trying to not remind anyone of that is in the metrics SDK meeting that was discussed and decided, because I don't want to do it. I think there's better solutions, but that's a different story.
So that's the whole idea that, if you have Is that the idea? Like, okay, you have your async callback function and you don't want to call your expensive thing many times. So you call it once, but you associate that same value with a variety of different attribute combinations.
Yeah, so the idea would be you register the one async callback for like a gauge that is useless. And then when that callback gets called, you go look up all of the synchronous instruments and write synchronously your async values. But it's all around bad because again, like with counters, you're recording deltas, but with async counters, you're recording cumulatives. And so it's literally the worst for users in my opinion, and I just don't want to do it. So we are not going to implement that until we absolutely have to be spec compliant if it makes it in. Unless you guys disagree and want that, let me know.
You were saying the worst from a user perspective, not from an implementation perspective.
From a user perspective, yeah. Did you see the
'Cause I was
discussion?
wondering,
Sorry, go ahead.
from an implementation perspective, why is it different? Like, why wouldn't it work today if you tried to do that?
All we have to do to make it work is basically collect all asynchronous instruments first, then collect all synchronous instruments, and then it'd be
Got it.
fine. Right now, we just do them in order of
Oh.
registration arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I totally got that.
So it's simple. It's simple to fix, but like from a user standpoint, the main problem I have is asynchronous instruments record cumulative values. Delta instruments do not, or sorry, synchronous instruments do not, except for histograms, which is just record any value. So it could be a delta, it could be a cumulative. So the only synchronous instrument we have that works in an asynchronous use case correctly without all sorts of craziness is histogram. So are we going to be recording that many histograms that like this is useful in like a batch thing? I don't think so. I think most people who want to do this want to record gauges and async sums, and giving them just histogram feels super, super bad, right? So I think we need to go back and add the batch API at some point and give people other workarounds, which I think you saw the discussion in Java, but we've had this concern show up in JavaScript. We've had it show up in Python. We've had it show up in Java. Pretty sure it probably is going to show up in the other SIGs. It's something that we need to get added, but the goal right now is to get what we have out with a known workaround and then add that feature later in like the next version of the spec. So
By the way, when we had batch instruments, I don't know, months ago, or batch collections of async stuff months ago, we got a complaint, I believe, from Christian Neumuller that we weren't setting the timestamp exactly the same on all of the recordings in that batch. So that's another thing that is tricky to figure out how to actually do correctly.
yes,
And even if it is correctly, I mean, yeah, because every time you make a call, it's going to have a different timestamp. So what is the timestamp for a batch recording? Bogdan pushed back and said, "This is impossible. We're not going to try to do that." And that was kind of the end of it. But that's a concern.
When we're talking about batches, is each entry in the batch just a different attribute set, or is it a different value and attribute set potentially?
It could be a
Yeah.
completely different instrument. It's a
Yes.
collection of instruments that you want to send all the recordings at one time.
Okay.
Yep. So it could be like I send, queue size, I could send, memory usage and CPU all at the same time. And I have some expensive, syscall I make to get that would be like one thing. Or, I'm grabbing metrics from an actual physical instrument and recording them. And that physical instrument gives me just a dump of bits that I pull. And getting that dump of bits is expensive, but then I just parse it and report like 10 different things,
Yeah.
And is the reason to do it with batch rather than just calling instruments so that it's atomic? Or
It's about so the workaround that we gave people was to put kind of a last updated flag and locks on their async callbacks and just have a check recent, And then you have some state that basically checks to see if the current collection is recent enough. And if so, use all the existing values. And if it's not recent enough, then you make your expensive call
I got it.
and get
Okay.
your values. But you want to
Expense.
avoid hitting, it's the
Yeah.
expensiveness of the call that matters,
Mhm.
not anything else.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So if your periodic metric reader is configured well, it's not a huge issue in practice, right? Because it's not going to be collecting that frequently.
Mhm.
Yeah, so sounds like a corner case.
yeah, but that's anyway. We have to fill out the spec compliance matrix. So unless I was planning to do that unless somebody else wants to. I don't need to do it. I want to do it, but I don't need to. If anybody else wants to fill out the spec compliance matrix, if you're comfortable with me doing that, great. If you're not, that's fine too.
If I have some free time tomorrow, I might take a look at it.
Okay, cool. I will not do it then. Cool. I think that's it in terms of metric issues and things I ran. But the TLDR, Anurag, is I'm running a long-term kind of soak test on the agent with metrics with exemplars and histograms and things just to see what happens. And yeah, I already crashed my back.
Things happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to do this like every release and just kind of see what goes on.
Is your backend stuck there?
We don't call it Stackdriver anymore.
Yeah.
And by
Always
that I
gonna
mean
call it
everyone even internally calls it Stackdriver. Yes, it's if you're familiar with our internal names, it has another name. But either way, yeah, it's so it's cloud operations, the cloud logging, cloud monitoring, and cloud trace. So with like links. So the exemplars were working perfectly until I got my third metric report that blew out my cardinality, and now I can't query my metrics anymore. So that is an unfortunate
And
problem.
it doesn't sound like you can just restart your server to get your metrics back. It's like cloud backend. Yeah.
No, I actually have to go delete all those metrics. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually going to be an issue with Prometheus as well. Is there anything else to call? Oh yeah, I expect to have some changes in the Prometheus exporter post getting the SDK stabilized. So that's the other area that we'll see some changes going in. Nothing like hopefully surprising, but effectively there are pieces of OpenTelemetry that need to make it into Prometheus that aren't by default. Instrumentation library labels. There's an open discussion about how those make it into Prometheus. And then we also need to get resource attributes in there. And that's when the real pain starts.
What's painful about the resource attributes? I keep hearing that being alluded to. Like, why don't those map well to labels in Prometheus?
Oh, so one example is the resource for the process runtime, which has the full command line.
Limits?
Yeah, they're not stable.
Command line, I don't think makes a great. That doesn't make a fantastic metric dimension.
In fact, Prometheus recommends specifically not to use that in their guidance. Like, this is an example of a bad label, is what they have. Yeah.
Very descriptive.
Oh, you know exactly where it came from. Yeah. Well, actually, you don't really. But
No, you don't really know at all. You just see a bunch of irrelevant information. I mean, there can be gems in there. Like you're like, oh, that user has some
Database
garbage.
password.
Or well, and I'm more thinking like, oh, they've set their max heap to 45 terabytes. What could go wrong?
I have a hard stop in 5 minutes. I just want to confirm there aren't any questions or anything I should talk about. If not, we can keep on going.
You saw the OTel roadmap document? One thing I'm trying to get from every SIG, and I'm reaching out to you personally because this is the one I attend more often, is to try to actually get coarse-grained deliverables in a Gantt chart. And we want these to be as accurate as we can make them, and we also want to aggressively be telling the community when things are stable. So the thing I'm asking for here is, when can you put a date yet in the next 9 months on when we think we can declare some kind of stability or for the agent, right? Is that a thing that we can do sometime in the next 9 months? And if so, when? And let's set a target date and drive towards it. There is a roadmap that Trask took a AI to go update that is from 2020. November of 2020, so not like that old, but still a bit stale. People keep asking, when can I adopt these things? When are things ready? What's happening? What do things look like? So the goal is to give them a roadmap, and the 3 signals I want are: don't look yet, start looking now because it's about to be stable, and go adopt, right?
When you say agent stability, do you mean, because I mean, we have declared the agent itself is non-alpha, is stable, but not from, we have a list of things that aren't included in that stability, primarily telemetry signals.
That's fine, but when you go to the agent repo, tell me where you see that it's stable and that I should adopt it.
Versioning.
No.
Uploading
Go to the README. Go to the README. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Go to the README. Okay, right
Oh,
here.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
God,
Yes.
God.
First thing you see is roadmap to GA. What do people ask? They're like, is the agent done? The roadmap hasn't been updated in a year, right? So like, if you want to mark this thing as stable, like put it right there. And that's kind of the message we want to give people is, so like in the state of OTel up above, if we could say, hey, the agent is stable and ready to be adopted for this number of things, great. And then we're building out this other number of things. That means they're going to go take a look at it. And that's what we want, right? Because I think you are stable for, like, definitely for tracing and this set of things. We probably don't want to tell people to go start taking in these metrics yet, and that's fine. But we do want them to look at tracing, and that's the goal behind the roadmap. So I just want to make sure that everyone here is kind of on board and understands, like, the goal of this is we're going to try to improve communication with users. So, and we're going to try to stick to our roadmaps a little bit better if we can. I understand. I feel like if there's a group in OTel that I could say will tell me when something will be done and it'll be done around that time, it would definitely be this group. So yeah. No? Okay.
We don't
All right.
have the best track record, but we do have.
When is the instrumentation API going to be stable?
Q4.
Wait, the instrumentation API isn't stable yet? I thought we were adopting that for everything.
We're migrating everything to have confidence in declaring it stable.
We have
Yeah.
99 things of instrumentation adopted to it, don't we?
94.
94, okay.
Mhm.
And we're worried it's not going to be stable.
Well, it keeps changing every release, so it's not stable yet.
Plus,
Is it
we
changing
have-
because of annoyances, or is it changing because it was fundamentally unsound?
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Mhm.
It also broke Android last time, but that wasn't the API surface, that was internal details.
This is honestly my biggest question mark at this point.
That is totally fair, and that I totally buy that. And to the extent that we're trying to push on that for a stable release, I don't know if you saw the state of if you pop open the state of OTel document, we're out of time for Anurag. I'm really sorry. If you go down, the instrumentation sig just updated with stable semantic conventions and when they expect it to hit. So there, I think you passed it, or no, it's right there. Yeah. Okay, so this is what they're focused on, and if you scroll down, I think the Gantt chart's here. So
Oh, yeah,
the goal is sometime in Q1 we should have stable semantic conventions for HTTP and for messaging. So I'd love to be more aggressive there, but we'll see what we can do.
Having
And is
been in
that
this
what-
project for over 2 years now, that feels aggressive.
It's already rather aggressive. Yes. Yeah.
Is- When they say this, do they mean semantic conventions for both metrics and traces for that, or just tracing?
That is just for tracing. and I'm planning to personally kind of kick off the metric bit. Again, with metrics, we have this issue with resources. So we actually have to figure out how to deal with resources and metrics before we can do anything with semantic conventions for reals there. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Hey, I'm
I
gonna
just-
bail out too. It's since it's been an hour.
Yeah, I have to drop too. But thanks for the time, and I am trying to be more aggressive. And John, I hear what you're saying.
I mean,
Are-
I'm not casting shade. I just have been here for 2
No.
years and had bosses ask me over and over again, like, when are you going to get to 1.0? When are you going to get to 1.0? At this point, I'm just like, I don't know.
I feel like our velocity has changed slightly
Yeah.
in that we had more conservative estimates around things going forward, and we started only missing our deadlines by months as opposed to years. So I
So
think that's a good
remember,
sign.
velocity is both magnitude and direction. So maybe we just change the direction and not the actual magnitude. That's all. I have a 15-year-old taking physics, and I'm been working through this idea of speed and velocity. So anyway,
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, awesome. Anyway, thanks for the time. Hopefully I didn't talk too much, but thanks. See y'all.
Great to see you all.
See you all.
Bye.
Yeah.
all right, thanks for showing up, Jack. That's good. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
course.
it's great to see you.